episode 59. This week, we're talking about tennis leadership and 2 ideas for tennis leadership.
Yeah, let's go through the question. The question that's often asked. Why don't you repeat that? You asked Dr. Jack Grapple the other day.
Yeah, Jack Grapple the other day. It's a little bit cliche, but if you were commissioner of tennis for the day, what would you do? What would you change? What implementations would you make?
Yeah, the commissioner on an international level or even a national level from country to country. I know John McEnroe has stepped up and said, I'll be the commissioner.
Yeah, Johnny Mac.
Run tennis with Javier
Palenque.
Yeah. And with our podcast, we have produced some of these not in order. But with that, I just want to go back to Javier, who talked to us about the USTA. Mm-hmm. And we did hear quite a few comments that were very, very positive, but there was less that were positive than negative.
Yeah.
But, I think he's so honest, digging for numbers, and if those numbers are accurate, which I'm sure they are, dose of honesty comes across as being negative.
I know.
Like, I don't want to hear the truth. Don't tell me the truth. The truth hurts too much.
You can't handle the truth. No, I mean, that's what Jack was saying last week, where he was just saying, look, you can't have yes people around you on your team the whole time. You need to have the people there that are going to be honest as well. It's like, hey, you're out of shape. You need to get fit.
Yeah, to hire a yes person.
No, your forehand is crummy.
No, I do think that some people, they like to hire people that will say yes to everything. But I think what's really important is to hire people who can bring something to the table to improve, say in tennis, to improve the tennis program. I think that's something with college tennis. Is I think way too many college tennis players, should say way too many college tennis coaches, they just hire somebody that they've already coached.
Yeah.
So if they were part of the program for 4 years, and then afterwards maybe they try to play the tour for a year or two and they come back. Certainly, everybody has experiences, but
yeah, they know the system, but they're not exactly going to bring in something maybe new to the system.
Or they know that there is no system.
Yeah, exactly.
With the 2 points you came up with,
we
came up with. Yeah, with but just in our dialogue, this is what you said, is to improve how tennis is taught at all levels, especially beginners.
Yeah.
So we can focus on that, and then we'll go to number 2. But for grit, Angela Duckworth, an expert on grit, the number 1 characteristic for grit is empathy. I think we have to feel sorry for beginners. It's such a difficult game. I like to have people play tennis with their opposite hand.
Mm-hmm.
Their opposite hand. And
that helps with the empathy.
And then, it's so difficult. And then lefty-righty is, say someone's right-handed and they're trying to hit a serve left-handed and they're going, whoa, this is difficult.
Yeah.
But actually, it's been proven that you can improve. You're actually improving myelin when you're playing with your opposite hand. So if you're playing left-handed and you're a right-hander, you're becoming better as a right-hander. Just to slow down and go through the process.
Yeah, you kind of understand the moving parts a little more and the concepts.
With fundamentals, many ways they're not fun. We always say Peter Broash, it's up to the personality of the pro.
Yeah.
And going through this is during the U.S. Open, watching some matches. And today, 2 former world-class players, Mary Jo Fernandez and Pam Shriver. Shriver brought up Coco Gauff's ready position.
Yeah.
And then Mary Jo said it's the grip. And then the question was, would you change the grip?
Yeah.
She's 17 and, well, maybe a little bit. With
the grip's a swing.
TFO, Brad Gilbert said, they're talking about his forehand, and Cliff Drysdale brought it up. And Gilbert said, I would have had to come to Jesus meeting when he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different now. I heard James Blake said, well, he has the hand speed to do that. Drysdale had asked Blake about how TFO swings his arm back similar to Murray on the serve. And then Blake came back and said, well, I didn't say I didn't like it. He goes, that's just a rhythm that works for him. And I just think that when it comes down to, hey, guys, does anybody say, well, you decelerate to the left side, you accelerate to the right, and the body's the leader?
I mean, TFO's, I don't see a similarity in that at all. TFO's got the high elbow. Strong as an ox. But no, I mean, he's got a little bit of the chain pull on his serve.
Are you talking about the opposite arm?
Oh, the opposite arm. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it's like, come on. Yeah, exactly. Everybody does that.
And it's very similar to is it the follow through, the recovery? And people aren't even talking about the follow through.
Yeah.
But how to improve tennis? I think we spend a lot of hours on our podcast. And I do think with our podcast, with our listeners, we'd like to come across like we're not a magazine, that they're all interconnected.
Yeah.
But the growth and welfare of tennis, the game will be in much better shape if people have a better entry point. So many kids, they play their first tournament, the stats overwhelming that's the last tournament they play.
Yeah. I mean, you have to learn how to hit the ball first to keep it in play, and then you can have some fun. You can play some tournaments. But if you go in too soon, you just get double bageled.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people might anyway, but if it becomes not so fun pretty fast.
Yeah, trying to win too soon.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with what I got.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't got very much.
Exactly. I mean, I just look, selfishly, it's, hey, I wish I would have had a technical start. I was lucky to have people that allowed me to play tennis for free and gave me the opportunity, but I didn't have information. So it was just, hey, trial and error and trying to observe people and learn whatever I could. But I didn't really have someone to go, here's how to hold it, here's how to swing, and here's why.
If people understood basics, the retention level would be higher. More people would stay with the game.
Yeah.
I do think in other sports, like say baseball, softball, it's against the rules to step on home plate. But in tennis, it's not against the rule to
step across your body. Sometimes you have to, but
right.
It's not fundamentally what
your hips are locked and you can't uncoil. And, I do think that if more people understood basics, if we could agree upon the ready position, I think that's gone away. Ready position, unit turn, high, low, high. There is a backswing. There's a contact point. There is a follow through.
Yeah. Well, when we talk, the VIX, the line is kind of a mantra. The dimensions of court physical laws dictate stroke production. No coach's opinion or any unique theory, but okay, dimensions of court. Also, if you just understand the dimensions of court, then you understand that the racket shouldn't be pulling east and west. It should go north and south because there's less than 20 degrees. So just having an understanding of the playing field would help as well. Oh, okay, I get that. I need to match my swing with the court.
Making tennis more user-friendly, I just think toss, catch, and throw. And having one kid, I'm going to say this all the time, they're going to be the human ball machine. You could even make it, they advance where it's tennis softball, you toss underhand. Tennis baseball, you toss overhand.
Yeah.
You can do it where it's very competitive, it becomes fun, and you can learn to actually play tennis that way. But people get tired of going out on a tennis court. They're trying to rally and say, "Excuse me."
Yeah, exactly.
Their balls. They're on court 1, and their ball's gone down to court 7.
Yeah, I remember years ago. I mean, tried to get my family out on the court a couple of times. So I was playing with my brother, and he's a musician, and he grew up, skateboarding and doing motocross. I was like, yeah, let's play tennis, and it was like hit over the fence, and then pretty soon it's just kind of like, this is lame, this isn't any fun. It's like, yeah, like I got to show you how to keep it in the court. It's not just going to be magic.
Yeah, so fundamentals first. And that's where I think cross-training, we take out basketballs and soccer balls, and you can have a Frisbee. It's like, okay, let's have this be some fun.
Yeah.
But we can't pretend that we're teaching when we're not.
Yeah.
Of course, anytime we go through a question like this is Braden information. It's just a wealth of information.
Yeah.
I think of the test Vic gave when his academy staff administered 200 questions. I ran a course, academic class. It was 200 questions.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. You can make it 400, 600 questions, like boom, 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 rapid fire.
I remember some of those would be, name 50 ways to do a peel-off drill.
Well, that
show, like there was some good stuff on there.
That was a different type test, a peel-off drill where you get one single file line and one player goes to the right and one player goes to the left, and you peel like a banana, you peel off.
Yeah.
But no, the intro class that I taught, how long's the court? How wide's the court?
Yeah.
Singles, doubles, the degrees.
Yeah.
Like boom, boom, boom. It's just building blocks.
No, I remember when Mackie McDonald was living with us during the pandemic, a few weeks there, and I had him in our garage here, and it's like, all right, let's go through the court. Here's how long the tennis court is. Here's how long it is on the diagonal. So 82.5 feet, on the diagonal. So it's 4.5 feet longer, more court to hit into when you go cross court. That's the width of the doubles alley. Tennis court is 27 feet wide in singles. Okay, now you take the width of the doubles alley times 2, 9. So you got 36 with doubles. Just going through all the basic geometry. And obviously Mackey's a world-class player, but just understanding your field is important. The playing field, I mean.
Time for an inside joke. Mike Carter, Texas Tennis Association, has been there 25 years. I know Mikey well.
Yeah.
He was with me for 5 years. I always blame him. It's that we had a test on how wide's the alley, and I just always say, well, Carter raised his hand and said, which one? But actually, to know Braden information, what are the variables for topspin? What are the variables for underspin?
Yeah.
And that we need to put forth a more organization and a clearer picture.
And really just efficiency, right, too, the fundamentals, but efficiency, because there's more than one way to do it, but there's efficient and inefficient ways.
Saving doubles. How we teach beginners, we teach them the Welby Van Horn body balance position. We teach them how to throw a ball. We teach people to play hot potato, catch hot potato.
Yeah.
So you throw, and only one player throws overhand. Everybody else is catching, going underhand, feet are moving.
Yeah, quick hands.
Throw cross court, do it mini tennis, service line, throw cross court. This is on our course in Tennis Intelligence Applied.
Yep.
You toss underhand, you come in, and it's just very quick feet, hands out in front. And then you can take one team, and they have rackets. We go with little kids, and they actually just hang onto it like a steering wheel. So you're tossing underhand, and they're just pushing forward. And then another step is only two players have a racket. 2 players are playing, which is with their hands catching and throwing.
Yeah.
And you toss everything to the forehand volley. And then everything to the backhand volley. And you say, no, this is team tennis.
Yeah.
Where it's, let's see how it's cooperative. So right next to this is an idea. Billie Jean King, she's so big on team format.
Yeah.
It's have kids be cooperative. And it's like, hey, what we're trying to do right now is get reps. And, you put 6 kids on a court and say, all right, who can do this drill, catching, tossing, catching, who can do it the most?
Yeah.
Instead of keeping tennis score. I think that's where, have a kid come out and some of the drills are just becoming, or set up just to become a better athlete.
Yeah.
I think it's, for the most part, it's like, well, this kid can only ride a tricycle, but we're trying to put him on a 26-inch bicycle.
Yeah.
Even though tennis has been scaled down with the red, the orange, the green dot.
Yeah.
But anything that can be done with a team, I think more accountability. I think that if people were to talk about how many new players they have, how many players we're introducing to the game, and I think what happens, even at the grassroots level, there's too much attention around the better players.
Yeah.
Around the better players.
Oh, we were saying that in an episode a couple weeks ago that typically the director of tennis is not the guy out there helping the new players. The early childhood development classes, they've got some newbie coach out there working with the young kids, when really it should be the opposite.
But taking accountability, the retention, getting new people in the game. Here's a marketing idea. I just think about all the things I used to do when I was training tennis teaching pro managers in an academic setting.
Mm-hmm. Tennis Tech.
I remember I was running the Seguzo Bassett Tennis Academy, which is now Chris Everett's, and Arthur Cohen was one of the owners. And I said, Arthur, we need to buy some T-shirts.
Yeah.
Pink and lime green and all these neon colors.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we have a very nice logo. And I said, well, we need to make Fridays free. So what are you going to do on Friday? Well, players can come on Friday and we're just going to play, but they bring a friend.
Yeah.
They get a T-shirt for bringing their friend, and their friend gets a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's have them come out and let's have some fun with.
And then they're talking, the cost of the T-shirts.
Right. But then, you do have to get people on film.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that you have to teach them right away. So, well, let's just get you on film and then you can play. And so, well, let's go just look at your forehand. We just look at your forehand. Our situation, people that follow us, have to realize that sometimes we have a pretty captive audience, is that someone's got on an airplane and they've flown, 4 hours, 5 hours to work with us. We're not just going to say, okay, let's just film you and let you play some. We'll observe you and, a little Band-Aid here. Oh, yeah, let's just look at your forehand.
Yeah.
And then when you help somebody with their forehand, I don't really like the expression to win someone over, to sell them, but, you do need tools of persuasion. Mm. So that comes down to, documenting development. Okay, well, let's just skills tests that we do, a couple of elaborate skills tests, but you can do it where let's have a skill test every day. Okay, we're going to do this drill, and as a team, we're this group of 4 and this group of 4, this group of 4. You can have 12 people on a tennis court.
Yeah.
And say, how many balls can we hit back and forth in the alley? You do if there's only 2 alleys, but you can use a center line.
Yeah, it could be, look at CrossFit gyms, how they, people take their personal best, right? So their PB, it's like, hey, keep track of your personal best. How many times you could rally or first serve or whatever it may be, right? I remember in the past doing a junior program where I had things like, okay, you had to check off to move from one level to the next as far as the things we set up. It's like, okay, for this level, you have to be able to master, you have to know the dimensions of the court, and then you have to know grips. Then you have to be able to hit topspin. You have to be able to drop pit in the alley, 8 out of 10 times, so you make these little benchmarks, I guess is a better word, before you could progress to the next thing.
Yeah, it's just
that's fun for kids. And then obviously it's skill development.
It's just like in kindergarten where you get a little star.
Yeah.
And they do that in college football. You make a really good play, and you get a little
on your helmet.
Sticker on your helmet.
Yeah, for sure.
James Dobson wrote so many books, Dare to Discipline, where you have the effort chart and the reward chart. If a kid wants to go to McDonald's are pretty clever at marketing.
Okay, just a little bit.
You want to
Ronald.
You want to go to McDonald's to get this toy. This is what you have to do.
Yeah.
System. People don't like the word system. We have a system on how we teach the grip.
Yeah.
We like to give people credit where credit's due.
But I like what we say, a system is an organized plan. So you just swap that. Say, we have an organized plan on how to teach the grip.
With filming, but it's all building blocks to step 1, step 2. Mm-hmm. I do think that a mission for us is to help tennis, the growth and welfare of tennis. That's a mission. Also, just simply get better at teaching, better at playing. But I've pound this home, more Americans playing American college tennis. And one of our trainees called me up and he was just shocked that someone had told him that you really shouldn't tell that 9-year-old that they could be a great plair. Yeah. I mean, you could be a great player.
Yeah, come on.
You could be a great player. It's be brilliant with basics. The formula, basics, repeat. Yeah. And you're great if you don't have to be great on the scoreboard. You're just great if you give it a go. It's the human spirit, the willpower.
Yeah, you're in the arena.
Well, again, the vision, we talk about the vision, is somebody, out on the sidewalk practicing, the driveway, in an open field, the basement. You can practice anywhere.
I had a comment on an Instagram post I put up of Dave Anderson working with a young girl, and he was teaching the father. The father was filming, and a guy made a comment. He said, like, "Oh, this is creepy," and I said, "What? This is not creepy. This is a coach trying to show a father how to work with his daughter at home, away from the lesson, basically, where it wouldn't cost him anything." I said, "It's not creepy. It's selfless, and it's what tennis education should be all about." And then I said, and the guy said, "Oh, what he's teaching is totally wrong." And I said, "He's teaching her to coil her body and have a palm down swing on the serve." The girl's like 7. I was like, it's spot on.
I know, I wrote.
And then he deleted his own comment.
But when you posted that, I remember writing a paragraph. I said, watch this twice. He's clearly talking to the father.
Yeah.
The father is filming it.
Yeah.
And, and the girl actually on the film, she does what's logical, intelligent. She puts the palm up.
Yeah.
She doesn't do what, he's working on,
Well, she repped it 2 times,
Right. But the point is that, it's just like the piano. You need to practice when you go home.
Yeah.
If you don't practice in between lessons, it's like people like myself. I mean, I got quite a few A's in Spanish. But I remember working with a valedictorian. Both his parents were visiting, both PhDs, and they heard the way I was talking to their son. They said, "Do you talk to him like that all the time?" I go, "Yeah. He, Gabe Wapner. Valedictorian, all A's, but I said, yeah, he can't even order lunch in French. He took 5 years, but it's just a safe bet. He can't even order lunch.
Yeah.
With
no, every once in a while I'll test the kids around here. I'll say a couple of things to them in Spanish, and they go, I don't speak. And I'm going, what do you mean? You're an AP Spanish or whatever? And all I'm saying is like, hola, ¿cómo estás?
Yeah, ¿cómo se llama? And ¿cuál está apellido? And they're like, yeah.
¿Tienes hambre? Like what?
Yeah. But how to improve tennis teaching is you have to realize it's so important. I mean, it's not like swimming where it's a life-saving skill. Okay, it's not like, okay, we have to teach the alphabet. It's more important to be able to learn to read and write.
Which is a system.
But
by the way,
it's just
right.
People need to be taught.
Yeah.
And I think really marketing more through the parent, educating the parent. And it's not like they need more activity and then they need to come out to the lessons more. They need to practice. And that's where the system in the U.S., the organized plan, or the way it was, people did so much better when they just took a private lesson.
Yeah, and I think you were the parents like, hey, if the kid knows how to shadow swing and has routines to do, then the parents could help push, hey, did you do your homework, basically, right? Your tennis homework.
Well, I think that's another thing, too, is that I do think that parents realize, okay, there's A for excellence, B for good, C for average, D for poor, F is unacceptable. But how do you get a W and how do you get an L? And it's just so important if they could just stop and think, learning basic fundamentals in tennis. If your kid's taking a swimming lesson, you want to, can they swim?
Exactly.
I grew up on a lake and my mother was very concerned. Can you pass the test where you go out to the raft and back or junior life saving?
I saw some photos of that area the other day. It was pretty nice.
With here in Florida, it's a big concern, but all these people that have pools you got to make sure that it's a life-saving skill. And I mean, I do when I look at a group of young kids playing tennis. I mean, I just imagine if they were in the water. I mean, it's like, are you really playing that way?
Yeah.
Coming back to saving doubles fundamentals, and it's again, that's where I think perhaps we come across, so egotistical. But to spend, 3 days watching juniors, I actually read after the fact that Pete Sampras, his niece, Stella Sampras, his daughter, surname Webster, that she won the 16 doubles. With
here in Orlando?
Yeah. And I mean, there was a lot of kids, 14, 16s, and 18s. And you don't want to take the air out of anybody's sails, but come on, we got to teach these kids to serve and go forward. They got to volley. They have to be able to learn how to play doubles.
It's just hard because now, obviously the 2-inch trophy, people want to win. And then at the highest level, people are winning that way now. So they just go, well, maybe I don't have to learn how to volley.
Well, also too, the body, these young players, very resilient, very supple, and prevention of injury. But yeah, so if commissioner for the day, what would really be the emphasis is tennis needs to be better taught.
Yeah.
And then also I think giving back, to have that mentality of a giver and a taker. I think everybody should learn how to teach.
Yeah, and going back to the future, as Dave Anderson said several episodes ago, but to go back at some of the tennis teachers, especially of Vic Braden, you always say, Vic is missed, but he was also missed, meaning the information just wasn't captured. So going back and studying some of the work of these guys, especially Vic Braden, all the research.
I think also too, if you just look at the top, I know that you have all sorts of high-speed film, slow motion of the pros.
Yeah.
There's a reason Djokovic is doing okay. The other day he was asked by a young kid in a press conference, do you think you're more like Spider-Man or Gumby? And he had never heard of Gumby.
Yeah, Gumby was awesome.
And they quickly put it up on the screen, and he said, I think I'm a little more like Spider-Man. But he's so flexible.
Yeah.
But, if you're in the player's lounge, somebody else, he's got an entourage working for him, but, he's just constantly stretching.
Mm-hmm.
but he hits the ball so well.
Yeah.
You watch him when he's in the ready position. Now, granted, I think that, he certainly could imagine that he's going to win the calendar Grand Slam. He's so close. But that, he could go forward more. He could be better. But still, this young kid from Greece, he can go forward. The Zverev grew up in Hamburg.
Yeah.
We could always say, the toss could be lower and racket face a little too open on the volleys, but there's the very best players like those three. I mean, of course, Roger they have stroke production. They have ball striking skills.
And then, look at Djokovic, the changes he made to his serve. I mean, he was number 3 in the world and it's improved so much. It's much more efficient. His toss has changed, body swing, all of it. So never too late to make changes.
So again, Commissioner, we talked to Richard Hernandez, one of our first podcasts.
Yeah.
Longtime friend, Richie Baby. And Miran, we had a 2-part series.
Tennis Canada.
But someone said, I couldn't believe what he said. What would be the number one thing that would improve tennis in Canada? And it was a great answer. He said, grips.
Yeah.
It's like my son Connor. People who listen to our podcast heard me say that people say, hey, you're a good doubles player. He goes, well, I just know where to stand.
Yeah.
I said, well, you could make that even better answer. I know where to stand and how to hang onto the racket.
Well, it's like we were talking about just, with Coco, just from a ready position. And then Mary Jo going, well, yeah, it's the grip. The grip determines the angle of the racket face. But then how, the swing has some extra moving parts and a little big.
Yeah, and she's awesome. But I really think pulling for American tennis, just like with Tiafoe. And Tiafoe, what a great personality. And, he's obviously doing really well. But to win the big one, we had of course, you have the Williams sisters, and Sloane Stephens who won a title. But on the men's side, it's going to be 20 years. We're close. 18 years since Roddick won.
Yeah.
I
saw, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but Max Cressy, I've done some work with. He was here as well. He had an upset, Carreno Busta, top 10 player. And I read something where it was the first win for an American player beating a top 10 player since 2016. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's what I read.
Well, with Max, one thing, I know you're traveling with him in Europe, and he was just here for like 3 weeks. One thing I like about Max is he's right up front and tells people, I want to be number one.
Yeah.
I want to be number one.
Yeah.
With passion. But with Max, is he really an American player? I know he played at UCLA. I know his mother's American, right?
Yeah.
His father's French.
Father's French. So he's a hybrid.
But he spent his early years in France. Was it an academy out in California, right?
Yeah. He was at Weil Academy and then UCLA. But I couldn't tell you all the history, but he was training in France for sure as a teenager, and they kind of dumped him from their high performance.
And
so
it was a smart move by UCLA that UCLA recruited him with the hope that he would play 3 doubles.
Yeah,
and actually he was there at the same time. I think different freshman, sophomore, they were the same class. He was there when Mackie McDonald was there.
Yeah.
So let's go on this. The other point that we had, if we were to be the commissioner for tennis, you're in the US of A or wherever.
Yeah, I like this one.
3 new types of tournaments. 3 new types of tournaments. And it's really, the idea comes from so many people that I've learned from, is a form tournament, a target tournament, and then incentive-driven tournament. So incentive-driven, like how a tennis teacher, how many kids under the age of 9 do you have on film? They're hitting toss balls with clean, efficient swings. And it's like, okay, yeah. And actually the governing body of tennis, should have someone come by, like a health inspector.
Then you could say, hey, if you can do that, we'll give you $10,000. There's some incentive.
No, that's where we're coming back to Javier, and all the money's being spent.
Take that 23 mil.
Is to give people at the grassroots level, say, okay, let's do this and get more people playing and
playing well.
Instead of, it's just, I don't think it's very American to pick out a handful of kids and then fly them to Lake Nona. And they're doing a great job with events, but with player development, even with Tiley, who's Tennis Australia, hands down, all the time people would just say he's the best tournament director in the world. And, but all the years later is, how are they doing with player development? I think sometimes the federations that have the most money are producing the least.
Yeah.
And, it's,
so maybe that just goes down to the character again. Someone like Djokovic, right? Okay, we have to practice in an empty swimming pool today. You can't hit wide serves.
Yeah, hungry.
Just all the adversity.
Hungry dog hunts best.
Yeah.
Number of parents taught who can demonstrate basic swings. When you have parents help out as volunteers in the early childhood development classes, sometimes you can't pull it off. Kids have...
and this is all under incentive-driven.
Yeah, incentive-driven. It's an event. It's competition.
Yeah.
So the parents go to an ECD, early childhood development, and sometimes the separation anxiety that the mom, used to be called a mommy and me class. So but the dad can be there as well, or it's just the dad and the daughter, and the daughter is like, no, you need to stay right next to me. Sometimes that has to happen.
Yeah.
I remember teaching a clinic in Japan at Chiba Tennis Training Center, Unihiro Yoshida. And they had such an amazing place. They had a staff just for wheelchair tennis players.
Yeah, that's cool.
But you need a cone, just all you need is an empty tennis ball can and just set a ball on it. And it's like, no, we don't need a racket. We're just gonna put the edge of the racket right on our nose. Or, you just you're gonna turn like a policeman stopping traffic. You just make the letter C, and they have to in slow motion.
Yeah.
Tap the ball off the cone without knocking, or the upside down tennis ball can, without knocking the can over. It's going to make them go pretty slow.
Yeah.
And then they have to reach up and, shake hands with a giant.
Yeah.
And, both hands are clapping at the top, and you come up on your back toe and you tap your toe. You're teaching 3/8 system balance.
Yeah.
And, I know that this, some people would be opposed to this, is that you get the tic tacs. Is that they're called tic tacs?
Yeah.
And I think in those little containers, there's 40 of them. I remember doing a traveling and being at a club and saying, okay, this is how you teach an early childhood development class. Yeah. And I said, okay, they're going to hit a forehand off the tennis can, because when I go some places you have 100 cones?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we don't have 100 cones. So I said, we get some tennis ball cans. And then you get a kid just without a racket, and they go very, very slow. And they end up on balance. They, play statues, freeze, be a statue.
Without a racket or without a ball, you mean?
No, you set a ball on the tennis.
Oh, and just do it with their hand, you mean?
And they do it with their hand, and they go so slow that they don't knock over the tennis can.
Right.
And then I remember one mom just giving the kid the whole container. I go, no. You make them do it like 10 times for one little candy. Sugar's a drug. I know you shouldn't do that. It's kind of like, you go to SeaWorld, and what do they give the killer whale?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you do us a trick and
Pavlov
show us a trick.
Yeah. Then you got them salivating before you know it, like without the tic tac.
But incentive driven, not everybody in fundraisers can donate money, but people can donate time to get volunteers, and there's community service, and getting older kids. And it can be retirees, it can be adults. It's like we need to grow the game.
Yeah.
With a forum tournament, Dennis Vandermeer, the reward, Dennis, you have to trick the little buggers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that again. You have to trick the little buggers. So Dennis, in his golden medallion, he's going to give out prizes.
Yeah.
So there is a reward. If you do this, this is what you'll get. But you don't have to have it be the 2-inch trophy for playing the wrong way.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a 2-inch trophy because you're running to the back fence. You're hanging onto the racket like it's a frying pan. The butt of the racket's almost hitting you in the earlobe. And we're going to say you're the winner. If that's other sports, I always come back to ice hockey, where you just know in 2 seconds, if you've never even seen ice hockey and you see someone who's on ice for the first time and they can't skate.
Yeah, it's like a baby deer.
With I see. So the reward, I think, for a forum tournament, and then you got to show them. And again, I remember years and years ago, Rob Krychek organized a meeting with Paul Rodert, Ann Pinkers, Paul Lubbers. And I said, what did you pay for that poster?
Yeah.
That poster is being sent to every tennis facility in America.
Yeah.
And it really should have been, maybe it was different players at that time, but Serena, Roger, Novak, Rafa. And this is the ready position.
Yeah. In key positions.
Key positions. It can just be 1, 2, 3, 4. You could break it down and make it more complicated. Mm-hmm. I mean, you want to have a meeting, go, no, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, but you have a sequence. This is the ready position. It's a unit turn. It'd be nice to, pet the puppy.
Oh, I like how you say chihuahua.
Chihuahua? I always tease people, go, you're not petting.
I don't know. I say chihuahua, but maybe that's wrong.
You're not petting the chihuahua. You're petting the Great Dane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
so why don't you pet an ant?
Wait, you hit a forehand. It's like you're ready. It's like your little puppy's a small horse. Most people, they don't have. That's Braden used to say it all the time. Is they don't get the racket below the ball.
Yeah.
I've been watching some players play today. They're just standing straight up, sliding over, hitting forehands, loosey goosey,
seeing your target through the net.
And it's just like the ball is the ball is definitely above waist level. But you got to show them. Okay, so here's the reward, but this is what you have to do. You got to be able to do these.
Yeah.
Application, rule with rules. These are the rules. When I was very young in tennis teaching, 26, I started working on Tyler Junior College campus, and they had 2 gymnasiums. And I was there through the 80s, and there was another school, a junior college, that only had 2 gyms. Excuse me, the second one I worked 15 years only had one gym. So the school I worked at, 2 gymnasiums. One was for the basketball teams, men and women. Mm-hmm. But this program was huge. They went to the Super Bowl twice, and they went to the White House twice when I was there. That's pretty big time.
Yeah.
So the Patsy Bells, they used to dance at halftime at football games and basketball games. So they had a small gym and had mirrors all 4 sides. So just to go in and say, okay, everybody sit down, no talking. And but they have to learn, here are the rules. You're going to slow down. You're going to freeze, play statue. You're going to hold your finish. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. These are the rules. Check the checkpoints.
That's where the pro has to bring some personality, because if you just do it without any kind of excitement or enthusiasm, kids are going to be like, well, how's your tennis class today? Well, we had to hold our finish, right? So,
but if you're working with an introvert, say, okay, this is your style right now. They're not going to say, take the kids over and you just whisper to them. But then you say, what did I just say? You can let them do the talking.
Yeah.
But you got to get it done. So you have to know the personality types of people that are helping you to, like, say, a camp or club setting. But you can put a point system to it. And static balance can be now utilized, emphasized, brought back with little or no interference.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? We're trying to win. We're trying to win the prize.
Yeah.
And I mean, prizes can be very creative. I used to do this thing where break them into teams, and every time you did something right, you'd have to earn it. You get a water balloon. So with the water balloon, the last day of the camp, your team gets all these water balloons, and you sit all the chairs, all the coaches sit in one place. I used to be out there, and I remember one prize we have a photo of it, was it was the top of the ballroom, so it's just one level, 10 feet up, and the grand prize was to dump an ice bucket on my head.
You have a picture of that?
Yeah.
Tyler or something.
We put it up on Facebook. Communication, the forum tournament, it's got to be simple. We use the word picture method. The forehand, the Ferris wheel, the bicycle tire, the merry-go-round, the frisbee. Yeah. Which one is it? All the buzzwords, all the catchphrases, but then you have them repeat those, and they just high, low, high. Inside out, got to slow down a little bit and explain that one, from close to away.
Yeah.
contact points straight up and down. Then you yell it out. Contact points straight up and down. How's the contact point? Straight up and down.
Yeah.
Braden was an artist. He was called that take the role of the dummy. What's the contact point?
Yeah.
This is a contact point. Show me the contact point. How's the contact
What
point?
is it?
Straight up and down. And just over and over and over again. So you got the reward, you got to show, there's application, you got rule with rules, communication, and then there's a process. Yeah, you need some teaching aids. Cone works better than upside down tennis ball can.
Yeah.
3 balls in a sock. When we say a wall, we don't necessarily mean to go hit against a wall or a portable backboard, a GreatBase backboard. We mean you can use the fence.
Yeah.
Go take your forehand, and you can do it with your hand first, with your racket. Can you just trace your swing? We're watching Sloane Stephens. What a great player. I think she'd be greater if her swing didn't go 3 feet behind her back.
Yeah. Because it's actually 6.
And
3 feet back, 3 feet forward.
And same thing with when she comes into volley. I mean, she doesn't come in very much. But when you come in, it's just like with Coco Gauff warming up and the angle they had, she really can't stick a backhand volley.
No.
She doesn't have a backhand grip, doesn't have a full unit turn, the arm's not straight.
Oh, she goes down.
But, she's certainly, you think, okay, number 1, great competitor. Number 2, really athletic. Number 3, fitter than fit.
Yeah. I remember there was a point where she came in and then she just really stuck a forehand volley, forced an error, and she hit it. And then there was another point where she came in for a backhand volley, and because of the grip and the open racket face and the angle downward, she just hit a minus, basically set up, and then Sloane just easily passed her on the next shot. So got to be able to stick both.
Early childhood development, still on a form tournament, it's great to have volunteers. Actually, it's very good if you can have one person for every tie. But we have it backwards, where the most experienced, so-called tennis teachers are with the so-called players.
Yeah.
And everybody's pretending. So you can use other sports. Okay, you could have tennis, golf, put up cones and just like putt-putt.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cones. You could have kids dribbling a soccer ball. You can do this all on a tennis court. Dribbling a basketball. You can have kids in the back just throwing and catching. But you have to make sure that a kid knows what the ready position is, and they have to know the grips. Yeah. Because if a kid is unattended and they just go down the road and they're seriously 18 months go by, they're already locked in. Yeah. And how many kids, they're in the game 5 years and they find out what they thought was their best shot's their worst shot.
Yeah.
I'd say the forehand. With hitting off a cone, you don't want to have people standing around. So tennis teachers need to spend some money and buy skip ropes. I bring your own skip rope, but you have to have extra skip ropes, and it works like a charm. Okay, you can hit off the cone, and you're gonna go very slowly. But after you go 4 off the cone, do 40 jumps, and there's like, okay, I like hitting off the cone.
Exactly.
I like oxygen.
That'll get them to slow down. For sure.
We know now, and it's not to beat up kids today, but they're using their thumbs. They're on a phone. They're on some electronical device.
Yeah.
You got to be building coordination. You got to be building agility, all these different things to become a coordinated athlete.
Some agility isn't too important, you don't think?
To have kids, it's going way down. Coach K with Duke basketball will say that kids years ago would come in and they would have better ball handling skills. They're bigger, stronger, now fitter. I think people are doing a better job for sure. Mm-hmm. Jack Roppel talked about that with nutrition. For sure. They have to become better athletes. So you go from the form tournament, so I went 1, 2, 3, form tournament, target tournament, then incentive driven. But at targets, you break the tennis court into 4 quadrants. It's pretty simple. You have the 2 service boxes, draw imaginary line. Ed Crass, we need to mention Ed's name more when we talk about doubles. The top players call it ghost doubles. one-on-one, diagonal doubles. I remember helping Ed with Bobby Curtis, who just unfortunately passed away. Full life, though, lived well into his 90s. And I remember when the tournaments were sanctioned in Florida, I remember Tommy Haas talked Ed into letting people stay back because he has a rule you have to go for it. But then he's come back. He's gone back to that. You have to serve and volley. And I think college coaches have heard us say that with deuce court to deuce court. Let's have a challenge on the tennis team. Deuce court to deuce court. Who's the best deuce court player? Who's the best ad court player? So it'd be nice if there was a line all the way down the court from a tennis teaching standpoint. That would also help with targets. But it can be how many do you get out of 4? You get you just hundreds, 75, 50, 25.
To a quadrant.
Tossing a ball underhand, can you just hit it? Can you hit it in the box in front of you?
Yeah.
Vandermeer, get people to hit a forehand volley, and then it's got to bounce 3 times before it exits the court. Just all these little tricks, trick the little buggers. You've got to get them so they can hit the target. If you want to do this, you got to do that. Using the alley. Years ago at Forest Hills, when the grass was so bad, the top players would practice in the alley. If you want to humble people, I did this one time at Jimmy Johnson, the Advantage Tennis Academy. So I show up and I go, okay, you're going to see this bald-headed old guy chirping away, wearing a whistle. Like, why am I going to listen to this guy? And no, I'm not going to have him listen to me at all. I said, okay, let's have a little tournament. And you can have people drop hit, but you say, okay, live ball, start to rally, play a set. And you have to be a really good tennis player. When you see, George Goldoff was here during the pandemic. So George and Mackenzie, we had them do that, and they could have a solid rally in the alley. Everybody else is just looking. I mean, people can't really put 2-3 shots together.
No, it's tough.
So, but again, that's not to beat them up. That's where, okay, we got to teach one kid to be an athlete. One kid's over on the other side trying to catch it, toss underhand, catch it on 1 bounce, catch it on 2 bounces, catch it in the air. And then accountability. Okay, your partner just tossed you, 4. Give yourself, you get an A if you get all 4.
Yeah.
You get a C.
Yeah.
You're discouraging them. But it's competitive. The child's workplace is school.
Yeah.
They know what an F stands for. You're failing with, you can create your own targets. You can, it doesn't have to be a service box. Again, we love cones, but you just take 4 cones and you make a really small target, and you don't have to be hitting over the net. It's just like throwing horseshoes. On horseshoes, if you're close, you're good. But
hand grenades too.
You go to a carnival. What do they do at a carnival? It's like, okay, they make a lot of money. You're okay. Your parents, now it's $1. It used to be 25 cents, and for 25 cents, you get 3 tries.
Yeah, you get 3 darts. You got to pop those balloons.
Yeah, whatever it is, and it's just to think of that format in tennis. Okay, let's make it a carnival, but it's so it's going to be fun. But it coming back to Vandermeer, it's trickery. You got to trick them.
Yeah. And you can make it like in those, any kind of, where they're playing for targets or whatever, you can also say, okay, you have to hit the target, but it only counts if you end up, for example, with the 3H system of balance, or it only counts if you're shaking hands with a giant or whatever it is.
Right. So you get a point for the target, but you also get a point for the form. That's where you got to combine.
Yeah.
We've said it so many times on these podcasts, form-based teaching with game-based. To me, game-based, and I'm perhaps just being totally cynical, is that because I know there is a lot of merit to game-based, but if that's all you're doing, and again, not to beat up to me, it was hundreds of kids. The USTA has 100 courts. There was kids everywhere, these 14, 16s, 18 playing doubles, and it's not doubles. I'm sorry, but it's just not doubles. And
keep away singles.
it's just sad, but that's where get people working together. So you can combine balance and stroke production and a point system, and you're teaching people to compete by saying, okay, how many can you get?
Yeah.
It's just like two kids out in the driveway. We did this for years. It's on our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied. You can call it 35. You just take 7 strokes. So we interviewed Raven Klaassen. He would have been a player that would have been in on this. So he's been away for a tournament or two. He comes back and says, okay, let's rest a little bit. Let's go back over technique. You have to make 5 forehand volleys in a row. And then you can do it, okay, now, and you can, whatever. So if it's 35, it's 7 skills. So then you have to go back and make 5 forehand approach shots where you run over the service line. And now with the green lines, I should say the 10 and under lines, two-tone, 2 different colors of green, but you make 5 volleys, you make 5 approach shots, you make 5 ground strokes. If you miss, you got to start over.
Yeah.
You go right back to the beginning. So it's like 2 people in the driveway playing horse or playing pig, shooting basketballs.
Yeah.
So if you do that, say, okay, let's do this for an hour. And what you got to do after 30 minutes is you got to start on the backhand because they won't get to hit a backhand.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this is young guys that are out playing futures. And then what happens when you do that?
Because the approach shot and the volley is basically the unknown territory. So
it's just off a courtesy feat. I mean, people can't hit the broadside of a barn. So when you go to hit the target as a parent, I could think, okay, my son Connor, my son Mikhail played quite well when he was 10, 12 years old. That, he played really well. He
never lost.
he basically did lose. Yeah. But with that, the 12-year-old that's brain versus brawn. We do a drill we call the Tiebreaker Test. So many kids are 07. They have to hit 6 consecutive shots.
Yeah.
Courtesy feed. So they're 07.
I always tell people that have seen the movie The Matrix, everybody falls the first time. Hey, those Matrix fans out there, they'll get it.
But we ask people, hey, you went home, did you do the Tiebreaker Test? And then you just stop and think, okay, I'm on the right side of the court. I get hit on the right side of the net strap. They put a cone in the center mark. They put a percentage post. You can drive a truck, path of the racket, path of the target. Then you start making all the connections.
Yeah.
I do think when you get into targets is have teams. And you can be where if you have a battery of courts, is court 1 can take on court 2, court 3. And it's amazing with targets. If you let me go over that brain versus brawn thing. Is that nail that? Happens all the time. So you got an 18-year-old and you got a 13-year-old, 5 years between them, and they play. The 18-year-old's going to win, but the 13-year-old is by far a better tennis player. By far. You do skills tests. By far, they're a better tennis player, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
We talked to Jack Ruppel. I told him that the drill that he shared with us from the French Tennis Federation years ago, 50% tennis. Don't hit a winner till you were in the green zone. Just angle the ball away. We had Bobby Cooper here from great kid from Boston. He's been ranked as high as number 1 in New England, and he's playing another girl, Lannis Hamilton, who plays well, and Bobby's winning. I said, Bobby, did you win with brains or did you win with brawn? And he should be able to hit the ball 50% and be able to beat her. And he's just coming up in that, Vic Braden, just kiss the ball. Just get GVV, close in, and just angle the ball. But I think teams that, Billie Jean King has pushed for that at every level. It really improves the atmosphere.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Say that again?
Teamwork makes the dream work.
And certainly you can with any type of target, you can start adding athletic skills to it. I started adding movement. This is a great theme. If you can hit to the player, you can hit away from the player.
If you can dodge a wrench,
dodgeball.
You can dodge a ball.
No, I had these 2 young guys from NorCal today. They both play really well. And I had them play with their opposite hand. And I had them play against a young 11-year-old girl. I said, I want you to tag the return and come in. So it's great practice for her. She's coming up and she's letting the other person miss. That's her idea of tennis right now. but come in and, take the volley, take the overhead. And then I told the two guys playing left-handed, right now, let's see who has the most foot speed, because she should be able to really make you run, because they're really just powder puffing their serve with the opposite hand.
And I think this gives, coaches out there also some ideas for group dynamics when they have a mix. Sometimes you're not going to have people at the same levels or ages, and then here's some ideas to how you can work.
Well, I think also with group dynamics, it's great how Jack Ruppel mentioned Vandermeer. With Dennis was so great with group dynamics, but you need to be able to transition. You say, okay, I've got this going, and you got a lot of people out there. Let's do this for 5 minutes, and we'll do this for 5 minutes. And I taught tennis in the 70s and 80s when there was a tennis boom, but also to working in the setting where up to 108 tennis teachers. And then we had a community program with 80. We went through all that with group dynamics. It's like, okay. I mean, it's very important. Everybody shake hands with one person. And that's a Vandermeer trick, because if there's anybody left over, they're shaking hands with me. Just shake hands with one person. Now give that person the high five. Don't take your rackets up in the air and touch them. And you just want to find out. All you're trying to do is there an odd number? You just want to know if there's an odd number. That's all you're doing. And if there's an odd number, then you have to, as a person, be in charge. You're out there trying to teach 40 people at one time by yourself. You've got to, this comes back to incentive-driven, but even with practicing form, practicing hitting targets, Vic Braden, tennis is hitting targets. We've said it's hitting targets, running, hitting targets with a score. Yeah. But you have to teach parents to practice at home. You have to teach practice partners. And it's very, very good for the older players to slow down and start to help the younger players. The more people can participate, the better. I was just writing some notes to a couple of gentlemen today. Is if people have to really come and see how we teach, like a 9-year-old to teach tennis. We don't believe in the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't underestimate the capacity of the learner. But and how much fun is that? So if a new kid comes out with a compatibility factor, is instead of having them talk to an adult, or while you're way behind the group, say, hey, no, go over in the corner and he'll show you how to start hitting forehands. Yeah. And then they're buddies right away, and it just breaks the ice.
Yeah, you got an instant friend.
Percy Roseberg's probably better known for working with Edberg and Borg. He had the insight to have one change to one-hander, which was Edberg, and he had Borg stay with a two-hander. Different game styles, but that was just coaching and teaching. That was not a matter of saying, okay, how are we going to teach beginners? So if we're commissioner of tennis, we got to teach tennis better, especially for beginners. And then the form tournament around the world. Okay, kids under the age of 9, maybe it's under the age of 8. We talked to Dave Fish, and I was on a podcast with Dave Mullins with the ITA and Dave Fish at tennis camps with having a form tournament at a tennis camp. And, it's just fun, and it just works. So I was telling Dave Mullins that, what we put together, GreatBase Tennis, I think how we could help college tennis is we could help college coaches with camps. That's not their line of work.
Yeah.
They spend so much time on recruiting and organizing, so much red tape. I mean, it's like a mountain of red tape. Just organizing the schedule, organizing all the variables for travel.
They should have a feeder system.
But also, too, is the volunteer coach. How are they making a living? Typically, a volunteer coach in college tennis, they may even played at the same college, and they can hit a ball, and all they're doing is they're a glorified sparring partner, and most of them are just giving privates to good players, to good junior players. Good juniors who think they're good, but they may not necessarily be that good, if you can follow me. But they're just, it's the blind leading the blind. And we always say that the sparring partner in boxing, they wear a helmet and a mouth guard. They don't say anything. Yeah. But getting back to Percy Roseberg, I was fortunate to go to Sweden. I've been there many times, but I went with Mark Hamlin. He was teaching in northern Germany, and
Bone.
the Swedes were so successful. It's like, what are they doing up there? At that time, on the men's side, I believe it was 6 out of the top 10 players in the world. But the Swedes, 10,000 animators to teach people to teach tennis. Okay, this is the ready position. This is how you swing the racket. You can, with really little kids, I don't know what you call it, but you go to the toy store and you buy the thing where you can blow bubbles. Mm-hmm. Do they call that blowing bubbles?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Or you can hang a string from the ceiling.
Like that little ring that you just blow through, right?
You can hang a little string from the ceiling, and people that are really into it, it's like, okay, we're going to get a ping pong paddle, and we're going to have our little kids start to try to, whack it. Even if the ball, it looks like polo. It looks like they're playing polo without the horse. They're just on the balls on the ground and they're whacking it. Little hand-eye coordination. But that was in the 80s. But and I know that there's a lot to be said about really knowing baseball. That was the American sport for a long time. But a little league coach would tell you, okay, you're going to catch the ball with 2 hands. I mean, like we were saying, there's going to be some basic fundamentals that they're going to teach. Yeah. And I think where we are in tennis right now with the internet, it is awful. That's a pretty good word, awful. Gary Needleman, I saw he put a comment on on social media. It's a sea of awful. But awful it's just awful how, people are, getting off to the wrong start and how they're going to, their initial days in tennis. It's not a good beginning. No substitute for not having a good beginning. Yeah. But the Forum tournament, granted a group of college tennis players, like you said, a feeder system, a group of high school players should say, okay, what elementary schools feed into this? And, I grew up in this small town. We used to always say that Sam Volo was a very, very successful football coach, high school level. It's like he never lost. But he knew in the 6th grade, he knew from the 6th grade who his quarterback was going to be. Sam Volo had a big impact on my position today in teaching tennis because I became a big fan of Sam Volo. And my next door neighbor, Barney Hagan, he was a high school football player, and his mother, I remember her picking me up at Pop Warner practice, and I got out early and I changed out of my equipment in the back of her car. And, I would go to the away games. But on Monday, Sam Volo, he was the athletic director too. So was it right? But it was fun. Is that every PE class on Monday, he would get the old sequence analyzer out and he would show the football game. So if you had a high enough average, as dumb as I am, I had a high enough average to sign out of study hall. So I would watch, and he taught a PE class during my lunch period. So 3 times on Monday, probably didn't help me too well with my intellectual capacity, but 3 times on Monday, I would just watch him going through that over and over and over again. And that's why he was so successful, is that he just knew fundamentals. Yeah. But in that culture, I had a young coach, a very bright guy, say to me, well, in our culture, I go, wait a minute, you don't have a culture yet. But if you've won some championships with, I really think too, with like training tennis players, I think that if a parent has had a child, get to a level, say they're playing in one of these Pac-5 conferences. It's like, okay, you can listen to that parent. They know something about it. Or if someone is taught tennis, where they've actually taken a beginner and had them they're out there in the trenches and they've been with them going through, or they went from a beginner to being a really good player. It's very evident. And I like listening to commentators and, okay, I respect their position, have what they've accomplished in tennis. But it's pretty obvious that they haven't done that. They just don't know the game well enough. But coming back to tennis animators, that's where the USPTA and PTR, I hope they're not in conflict, that it'd be nice if they were one. The USTA, they're putting a certification program together now, and it's like all these years later, with people that did that, what Vandermeer and Braden did, or Van Horn. It's like, really? Why don't we go back to, we say all the time, like Vince Lombardi, the Lombardi sweep. It would take him an hour to explain one play at a coaching conference. Or someone corrected me, or I was more informed on this Princeton in basketball, Princeton offense, Princeton defense, whatever it is. So a coach from Princeton years ago, he created, like a Scotty Bowman did this in hockey. They, it's not like they reinvent the wheel, but so this gentleman in Princeton as a coach, he put something together that was used and still used in the NBA. So for me, commissioner of tennis, if we had one vote, I like what you started our conversation off with before we started on the podcast, is we need to improve tennis teaching, especially for beginners. And I get myself in trouble, but when I observe, I walk by and I sit down and I watch in this country, the red ball, orange ball, green dot, next generation or net generation.
Yeah, net generation.
Learning's not taking place. If learning's taking place and you say, okay, everybody, ready position. People come up to, and I say, well, let me show you this. And I think people actually laugh at it because tennis is so individualistic. This is my style. And I say, all right, we have a visiting parent, they're watching practice for the first time. So watch this. If everybody would demonstrate the overhead. Okay, now everybody demonstrate the overhead left-handed.
Yeah.
And I can remember, I remember being on this college campus for 10 years, and I every day go pick up my mail. And for a good part of the year, both in the fall and the spring, because they played football in the spring, they practiced. As a football players watched so much film that they could run the play forward and backwards. Mm-hmm. They would just pretend they're doing it backwards. And what a great way to teach tennis. Hold your follow through. And that's what Vandermeer would do, is hold your follow through, then go backwards. And he had the idea of, I'm using progressions, and I think of Elaine Mason before him, what she did in the 50s. And those are the type of books that we have in our library, is that you can teach the forehand from the contact point up. Just go contact point up. And we know that you don't want to use a progression to the point where it starts
being the regular forehand.
It gets locked in, but so confining the area, just having people tap the ball, touch the ball. Certainly there's all sorts of progressions, but I do think a form tournament.
Yeah.
But the energy would be there. And, say these, at one point when they called it quick start, and that's where we were, the evolution of the title of the GreatBase is, I used to say, it's not a quick start, it's the right start. And people are going to remember the beginning of class and the end of class. So, okay, what you do in the beginning. When people first come to work with us, they do remember technique. Okay, they slowed me down. We went through this over and over and over again. But so in a lesson, there's the beginning, there's the middle, and there's the end. How do lessons end? They end where, okay, let's have a ton of fun. Inexperienced tennis teachers, what happens is the kid gives them the look that they're bored.
Yeah.
And then what happens to the teachers? Then they cop out.
Yeah.
They go, okay, no.
Let's play jail.
Yeah. Okay, we're done with technique. That was enough. And let's just make it fun. And I do think that's how people can fill their pockets with money. It's okay, let's make it fun. But then in the end, how much fun is it if a young kid's been coming out to tennis lessons with the hope of becoming beyond a junior player? They want to play in college.
Yeah.
And then they find out when they're 15, 16 years old, that's not in the cards because they just don't have the skills.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Commissioner for the day.
Well, there's a couple ideas for some tennis leaders. Commissioner for the day. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode. Find us online at greatbasetennis.com. Social media at GreatBase Tennis. And until the next time.
We're still getting those ratings where I get a 10 and you get a 0, so we get a lot of 5s.
It's flipped, actually. Yeah.
You're getting the 10s?
Yep. Yep, I'm a dime.
to be rated for our podcast.
I am a dime. Well, thanks, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next one.
All right, thanks.
Adios.